Alright, so this is episode 3 of Pilot Initiation, a developer series where we try to discuss and improve all of our creative content to make them their best at their potential. Today we're going to be discussing chapter 3 of Lovia's Resonance again. Alright, let's get it rolling.
I thought you were going to introduce me as co-host and all that, but it's okay. Okay, so where are you on chapter 3?
Currently, for chapter 3, I am in introduction phase only. I haven't gotten very far, it's been a long week, but I am actively working on chapter 3. As of introductions, I'm trying to get a lot more character dialogue in to where we can explore a little bit of the character traits a little more.
Alright.
That's currently where I'm at.
Okay. So do you have like a set pace right now where you think you'll be finished, or
the current pace I'm at right now, I'd say it'd probably be finished within maybe 2 more weeks' time. I know that's a long stretch, but it's going to be a lengthy chapter. That's why I say that's how long it'll take. That's working at my current pace, but that is a good pace to be working at with the detail going into all the characters.
okay. So far in the introduction, would you say you're just there, or you're a little bit into it?
I am a little bit into it, but not too far to where we actually get to learn anything about characters yet. Um, it'll take like a few more paragraphs and chapters. Well, not chapters. A few more paragraphs and pages to actually learn about the characters a little more. But we will see a lot of character development in this chapter for sure.
Alright. So you've also been working on what you think the demos will look like?
Yes, that's one good thing I'm glad you brought up. So I'm doing a lot of concept art on a lot of the stuff going into the book, like the weapons, the people, and the technology for sure. I'm doing a lot of concept art on that. I'm gonna add that into the video actually. That way we have visual reference of how these people look. One thing that sets them apart is like their physical appearance. So when it comes to their physical appearance, I didn't want them to look human. I wanted them to look like an alien species because they are. So when it comes to their physical appearance, I wanted them to like be semi-humanoid, but to where you can tell they are not us. So with the concept art, you're gonna see a lot of it, but as a physical appearance, the main things that I have is like bioluminescence, dark pupils, and pointed ears. Other than that, they basically look human almost.
Alright. And you discussed that the bioluminescence would be like regional, right?
Yes, so there's a bunch of major countries in the world of Lovia, which is the planet that they're on, and all of their bioluminescence would be regional. So it would be like different designs on their body that illuminated different colors based on their region.
And are you far into that, or are you just kind of just
I'm definitely going to brush into it within this chapter to give a little bit of insight on where characters are from and their backgrounds, but I haven't gotten into it yet. And as far as like the science behind it, it'll only happen at nighttime, so it'll make like a weird scenery setting for that to be showcased as character design.
Would you say you're inspired by anything by the way these people are looking?
Um, Inspired by other characters, I would say no, because like it's such a different design to me. Like there is some things that kind of are pulled from other characters, but not really to the point to where like they're entirely inspired by them. Like the bioluminescence is only things that we really see in animals sometimes in some plant life. So that's a good idea that I included in the actual anatomy of these people. And for the pointed ears and dark pupils, those are like common things in video games and writing. So that's not too much of like a difference, but the bioluminescence is one thing that I really want to highlight because it really sets them apart from a lot of other things.
All right. And And you did a few weapon sketches as well, right?
Yes, I did. I've currently done the Photon Director and the Sunbringer as concept sketches, and they kind of look like human weapons in a way, but they're different to where it looks like more advanced technology to the point to where it looks like they could actually be used for mass destruction.
And as far as your designs and stuff, would you say you're just doing these right now just to give a general idea, or more so for like cover art, possibly?
Not so much for cover art, definitely just for the general idea, because I don't want people to just be lost on how these things are supposed to look. I definitely want them to have a general idea of like basically how these look, how they can function with people, and how they basically go together with the characters.
And were you inspired by anything to battle weapon designs?
Yes, military weapons. So I've seen a lot of military weapons, and that's what I get a lot of the inspiration from on them. I will say it's like very tweaked to where they are different looking, but they look very similar. So you can look at these weapons and say, oh, that kind of looks like this or that, but at the same time, it looks like more futuristic tech and it looks upgraded to where it looks like it'll be doing what it's said to do in the story.
And while we're on the topic of these sketches of concepts and stuff, do you think we'll see more like normal Deimos transportation vehicles type?
Yes, that is one good thing because like there's going to be a lot of moving around within the chapter. So it's not going to be just the things that I've already explained, like the streamer or the castle. Those are like military and like specifically job related vehicles, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot less of those and a lot more civilian style vehicles. And it's going to be a lot more simplistic, but it'll still be like more advanced than common technology.
All right. Anything you're looking forward to in this introduction chapter?
I'm looking forward to trying to figure out like character paths because when it comes to like character backgrounds, I don't have a set layout just yet. So that's something I'm gonna have to think about really strongly on. But when it comes to like the regional thing that I want to say, that can play like a big role in those character backgrounds. So I'm really looking forward to writing the character backgrounds and have them interact with each other based on their backgrounds.
All right. And we're already getting the introduction on the characters. Anyone specifically that I have like more spotlight than the other ones?
Ooh, for I'm gonna answer that for side characters mainly. Um, so when it comes to characters getting spotlight, we're probably not gonna see it within chapter 3, but we'll definitely see it in chapter 4. So the character that's gonna kind of steal the spotlight for a minute is gonna be Colin and Sia for a good moment because of the trauma that they experienced in chapter 2. So when they come back, it's gonna be like a holy crap moment because it's gonna be like a make or break situation that kind of takes them into the spotlight. But as of chapter 3, we're gonna see a lot more of William, Lyra, and um, Lucer. Those three characters are the ones that are currently like unfazed compared to the other two right now. So those three are going to be who we mainly see in chapter 3.
All right. Mm, man, I really don't know. I expected you to have a chapter.
Yeah, I was trying to put more effort into the writing production, but I did get a lot caught up on the week because I'm still behind on a lot of stuff. So I'm definitely going to be putting a lot more writing effort into the upcoming week. But as of currently, it's still in development. So next week, there will be a lot more development happening. So we'll have a lot more to discuss. But as of right now, we still can talk about a lot of how this upcoming stuff goes.
All right. How would it go?
Um, so as I said, chapter 3 is going to be mainly character development. Like we're going to see how a lot of characters reacted to the situation in chapter two. We're gonna see a lot of like character interaction with each other and seeing how they get along as a team. And then we're gonna see like into character backgrounds as well. So a lot of it is gonna be character development based, not so much conflict plot based. So we're gonna see a lot more character development and regional development because that's one thing I want to stress a lot of is the scenery as well. So where they are currently, I was very descriptive on how what it looked like when they got there. So that's one thing I actually want to do concept art on as well is the place that they're in currently.
And we were talking about in episode 2, I think it was about how other people might be perceiving what just happened.
Yes, so when they get there, it's a lot of the people are still late to the situation compared to the team that was just in the situation. So a lot of people are still going to be unfazed currently, but there's going to be some immediately in the conflict that just happened because the way it does is it kind of disperses into other areas rather than just isolated conflict. So we will see how civilians are reacting to the conflict rather than just military to conflict. So one thing that we're probably going to see actually towards the end of this chapter is what's currently happening after the situation just happened. So when it comes to the end of chapter 3, it's going to be them moving towards the conflict. So they'll know where it's at, where to go, and what they need to do currently. But as of seeing it now, we're not going to see it until chapter 4, which is going to be when they're like in a civilian area and it'll be reaction to conflict.
And have you incorporated any of like when we'll just see civilians just doing what they do, like normal day to day type stuff?
Um, Not yet, but it will be because a lot of this chapter is going to be like the team's recovery. So a lot of that is just people going to be working normal jobs like hospitals, technicians, and like desk workers. We're going to see a lot of that. And that's going to be like a common thing because it's not going to be like a huge difference from normal life with regular jobs. The only major difference is like the people into the crime areas and the military because they really hold the highest difference from normal citizens.
So, should we be expecting anything major in chapter 4?
Chapter 4 is going to be a huge reaction to conflict. So there's going to be a lot of instant action like in chapter 2, but it's going to be like longer stress relation because in chapter 4 I plan to make it like very detailed with conflict and action compared to chapter 2 that was basically very one-sided. This time is going to be very back and forth with the conflict. It's not just going to be them getting onslaughted by the oppressors. It's going to be them actually being able to fight back by the invasion. So when it comes to developing the conflict and reaction to conflict, we're going to see heavy detail and structure in the fight scenes and like reactive areas.
And did you say you came up with a name for the oppressive alien jet?
I have not. I still need to work on that, but I'm definitely developing a concept art for them as well because we're definitely going to see them in the upcoming chapters. So we need to develop something on them already because we can't just have them being an alien race with no title. So I definitely have to work on that. But as of right now, I have a concept in my head of what they look like. I'm definitely going to add that into the video as well, a sketch concept of how they look and what they're capable of. Because they're definitely going to be biologically more advanced than the Deimos. But when it comes to technological, they are definitely lower ranked than them.
And do you think there'll be any certain colors or anything like that?
The color scheme I would like to aim for with the oppressing race is like gray and blue. I know I did like a weird color scheme when they were in chapter two. It was like bright red and blacks and purples. But when it comes to the actual alien species, I want them to be very mute colored and like they look dangerous to be around. That's how I want them to be perceived.
Any questions you might have?
Um, what would you like to see in terms of conflict reaction?
So in chapter 4, basically,
Yeah, in upcoming chapters in general, how would you like to see conflict reaction done?
sort of like thinking towards Hunger Game-ish. Well, no, not Hunger Games. That's a little too direct. Maybe like um, not Predator. I really can't even give a solid answer on that one. But I do want to see like a lot of bloodshed.
Oh, that's not going to be an issue because we'll definitely see that. There's going to be a lot of sketchy stuff happening. There's going to be like a lot of instant action to where like it'll be very graphic scenes. So you do not have to worry about missing out on any bloodshed within chapters. The only chapters that won't have that is like chapters where there's no direct conflict in action. Um, what kind of backgrounds would you like characters to have, or mainly what what kind of movement towards character development would you like to see?
Maybe just knowing a little bit about how they came up, became who they are, and why they're doing what they're doing. Simple stuff, you know.
All right.
I want the fight, well, the action, I want it to be like not unrealistic, like just annihilation, more like a good paced fight, good paced action. I mean,
So when it comes to the good paced action, like the cyberpunk idea is to kind of keep that, but at the same time be like the technological and biological difference of these two races will be like a main difference in those fights. So when it comes to them fighting back, it's going to be a huge difference, but at the same time, their biological difference will be a similar advantage because they don't know what to expect. So, in terms of action and points going into the instant action, what would you like to see the most of?
the most of maybe those little subtle moments where people are just kind of getting to know about each other and all that.
Now, so when it comes to getting to know each other, we're going to see a lot of character development within the team of possibly like conflict and basic disagreements on how they both react to conflict. So that's one piece of character development we're going to see within the team is how they all react to conflict and how their viewpoints on their reactions different. So, what other concepts would you like to see more of? Because we discussed civilian style technology and animal and plant life. What other concepts would you like to see included into this?
Maybe like the sky view, you know, like do they have clouds, stuff like that.
That's a great question because I haven't discussed a lot of that yet, but I will get into that being like the nighttime scenery. So their sky view is going to be a lot different from ours because their planet has three moons and their clouds are a little bit different from ours because their weather is going to be different as well. So that's a good question that I brought up is the scenery in general is a lot different from ours because off world planet and definitely different technology. So their basic perception of everyday life is going to be different. So when it comes to what they see entirely every day, that's a great thing to bring up in the story.
And maybe more on like the upcoming people that we haven't discussed yet, like the other conflicts, the minor ones that aren't as major as the imposing threat.
So the crime syndicate that is going to be the minor conflict, they're going to be quickly dealt with, but they won't be a easy threat if that makes sense. So when it comes to how they handle them as conflict to handling a whole new alien species as conflict is going to be a much more professional way of handling it because they already know how to handle people within their own ecosystem, but how can they handle someone else invading their ecosystem? So that's going to be like it's one of those things to where like it's slight inclusion, but it becomes like a big point in the plot. But at the same time, we still have this major threat going on.
And as far as the major aliens, do you think you'll give them like a predator prey type relation, or more like just for
I
another
feel like
aspect?
it'll definitely be that style because the way I have them set up in my head is gonna be they're an invading species already, so they have to have some type of confidence within themselves and intelligence to be doing this. So when it comes to predator to prey, it's more like they're intelligent, so they know they have to be skillful with how they go about their plans. And when it comes to basically how they're reacting to these people that they're invading, it'll be intelligent responses, but it's also going to be critical movements that they do that basically separate them as predator to prey. But this will be the same situation with the Deimos people reacting to them as the prey. Because it's not going to be like they're basically hunting each other, but it'll be more like defensive action meeting offensive action. So when it comes to predator to prey, we're going to see more of the other species on the offensive side. But when it comes to time to react, we're also going to see that offensive nature of the Deimos people as well.
And I just had a question leave my mind. So, will there be any like environmental tactics that they'll use?
So environmental tactics, they're pretty much going to be all at a disadvantage because the planet Lovia is heavily populated and it's basically all urban areas, very little like rural areas and jungle areas, but they still have that. But we're not going to see a lot of it, but we definitely still will see it to include the wildlife of the planet. But a lot of the fight scenes are going to be in the rural areas and heavily dense areas compared to maybe one or two that are going to be in rural areas where there's not a lot of people to get in the way. But when it comes to environmental advantages, the only ones that'll truly have that advantage is going to be the opposing race because of the biological offense that they have. So what I'm not going to spoil it just yet, but they'll basically have an advantage with the more surrounding biological entities around them. So to put it simple, the more life that's around them, the stronger they can be. So when it comes to the rural areas, we'll see a hard advantage with the opposing race, but as an overall offensive to defensive advantage, the technological advantage that the Damos have will definitely put that to quick dust.
And you said more about the plant and animal life to be discussed in chapter 3.
Not so much in chapter 3, but further chapters as well. When it comes to chapter 3, we're going to see a lot of the city life and basic planet scenery from day and night, but as of plant and animal life, we won't see so much of it, but it will be introduced. But when it comes to later chapters, like I said, when it comes to like fight scenes that are outside of urban areas, that's when we'll see more of the biological entities that are on this planet, like plant life and animal life. So with that, that's going to be like make or break situations as well, being where they currently are.
And back to the horror aspect that we discussed in chapter one, I think. Do you think we'll see stuff like some jump scares coming soon?
Not so much of jump scares, but more of the idea of graphic to read. So my idea of horror isn't like spooky, oh, jump scare, but it's more of the idea of like mutilation, goriness, and how distorted can you make an entity look, or how distorted can one's mind be. That's my idea of horror. And when it comes to horror in this story, it's not going to be like jump scare wise. It's going to be more along the lines of how messed up is this situation about to get, and how much blood is about to be shed in this situation.
And do you have an idea of when we're gonna get back into the bloody type stuff?
It'll
Well,
definitely be chapter 4, because chapter 4 is going to be reaction to conflict, as I said. I won't know how much is it going to show, but it will be there. But compared to further chapters, it might be more, some might be less. But chapter 4 is going to be a good start with the Deimos reaction to the invading species. So that's going to be a lot more isolated conflict that we saw, rather than just the instantaneous havoc of chapter 2.
and as far as weaponry, will we see any stuff like blades, swords, stuff like that?
That is a great question. I'm not sure I've thought of that yet, but it's a great idea to include those, because being that's a cyberpunk style, I was focused mainly on weapons and cybernetics of the people. So I guess melee style combat would be a good little idea to bring into the series. That way it's not just isolated shoot and run down gun. It's That'd be a good inclusion of like close quarters combat that could really put all of the characters on edge. So I would definitely include that, being that you brought it up.
And stuff like grenades too, right?
I'm not gonna do that because grenades are like video game stuff. Like when you're trying to basically cheat out of a situation. So I'm not gonna show a lot of that, because when it comes to writing, I do like a lot of explosive action, to put it in a way, but I don't like I'm gonna hide behind something and have the explosive action happen. I'm gonna be the cause of it for sure directly. So we're not gonna see like projectile explosives. We're gonna see more of like close quarter combat and a lot of firearms being used.
And have you got any general ideas like the equipment they'll be wearing, like the uniform type?
Yes, I actually have that in the concept sketch already. So in chapter 1, it was kind of introduced, but not going into heavy detail. I'll definitely go into more detail about the equipment that they're wearing in chapter 3, because we'll also see them outside of that uniform in chapter 3 as well. But in the concept sketch, it kind of looks similar to like Halo style armor in a way, but not so heavy on the plating. It's more like fitted cloth with metal plating in certain areas. That way it's lightweight and durable at the same time. So a lot of it has like technologies going into it, and a lot of it has technologies that can be applied to it as well. Like the molecular rearrangement tag that we see Lyra use in chapter 2. So that's technology that can be applied to the armor that they're wearing, because it's utility that they would have to get, but at the same time it can be applied to their armor.
when will we see like a lot of weapons? Like,
Probably when I bring up the crime syndicate, that may be chapter 5 or 6 in the long run, but that's when we're gonna see a lot more of like civilian technology and outside weaponry because when it comes to the military, they focus on light arrangement weapons, basically the photon director and the sunbringer, meaning that these weapons are very powerful and they use light as their ammunition source. So that's what you see a lot of the military use. But when it comes to civilian firearms, they don't have that same power behind it because it would be pretty much wrong to give that to the people. So whenever it comes to their technology, you're going to see a strong power difference between the two. But we're probably going to see a lot more of that in later chapters because as of right now, the main focus is background, character introductions further, and scenery setup, and then going into chapter 4 is conflict and action. So as of right now, we won't see that until later chapters of civilian tech and civilian weapons.
and you said chapter three would be one of your longer chapters.
It'll definitely be a longer chapter because how deep into character backgrounds I want to go because like I said, the regional bioluminescence is going to be like a major storytelling effort because that'll tell a lot of the character's background as well. It's not just some symbol that they carry on them for show. It's like a biological branding that they have that tells a lot of where they came from. But in terms of character development, it's going to be mainly focused on that in chapter 3. Character development, plot progression, and character morality alignment. I guess that would be a good phrasing to use.
And you did say in chapter one that the Deimos was like completely unified, really.
They are, but at the same time, they have those people that kind of shun themselves because their habits. Like I said, it's same economic situation as Earth. Like they have their upper, lower, middle class, and that will be what sets a lot of them apart from their unification. So there's going to be like a lot of lower class people economically that we see causing the problems on the planet. But for the most part, yes, they are unified.
And would you say that they start that way or like they built into that sort of?
It's a little bit of both. So, kind of how we are, you can be born into wealth, you can be born into poverty, and a lot of those people are somewhat born into the poverty. Like, we'll see the bioluminescence thing is going to be a major role in that. So, you'll see a lot of like how character backgrounds affect where they're actually coming from on the economic scale. But a lot of the problem and conflict is going to be from the lower class economic people. But at the same time, it's not like they don't have a choice to get out of the matter. It's just like they wanted instantaneous solutions. So that's basically how they had to go about it.
And would you say when you get to stuff like the crime syndicate, that would just be like a bunch in between the classes, or would it just be one set class?
I want it to be a diverse set of classes because when it comes to regional variation, I want it to not just like be directed towards one group of people because that it'd be pretty messed up to like have this one group of people being the only people that are making the world a worse place. So when it comes to seeing the crime syndicate, we're gonna see like a lot of diversity within the people, but it definitely will be more one than the other because that's how the background will be set up. And we'll see a lot of that within the soldiers as well because the team of the main characters, they'll be all from different regions. So a lot of that background bioluminescence is going to tell like a similar story, but at the same time it'll show like they had their options to basically fix their situations.
And do you think we'll see stuff like, I don't know, maybe children or younger versions of these characters?
Ooh, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting to do like that far into background, But at the same time, I definitely should go that deep into background to show how characters' history really made them align themselves personally. So going that far back with characters would be a good aspect to add to the story.
And do you feel like you're looking forward to getting to a certain point in the book yet?
I definitely want to get to chapter 4 because I want to really push the idea of the biological advancement that the invading species have. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to writing because I really want to showcase that difference between technological advancement and biological advancement.
And do you have anything that you think you can compare it to as far as the carnage and stuff would be concerned?
Ooh, um, I really don't think I can compare it to anything because the way I'm planning to set it up is something I haven't really seen done. I'm sure somebody has probably done something similar to it, but me personally, I haven't seen it done the way I plan to do it. So, in terms of Carnage being similar to anyone else, I don't think it will be, but I do think it'll be graphic in ways that have been done in similar manners. Alright, what is the wrap up question?
The wrap up question. What do you think we'll discuss for our next episode?
Next episode is definitely going to be how far have I gotten, what are my plans to finish, and how do I plan to go into chapter 4. Because I want to be at least 3/4 done with the chapter 3 by the next episode. I know that's a stretch with what I said, but I want to be at least that far into it before we get the next episode done. So I'll definitely have a lot more to discuss about chapter 3, and I'll definitely have a lot more to discuss about what's possibly going to happen in chapter 4. Because there's still a lot of gaps that we need to work on, like the invading race, what are they, how do they look, and there's a lot of things that are going to be with the characters that are going on that need to be discussed as well. Alright, that wraps it up. I'm the host, Shea Baker. This is co host Solomon Page, and we will be here next week.